Caring for an increasing ageing population is one of the greatest healthcare challenges facing our society. HalleyAssist offers an assisted aged care living solution designed to empower seniors in the home, retirement village or aged care facility. In this video series, you will learn about the HalleyAssist Anomaly Detection Project, the research involved and the expected outcomes. The process to identify changes in behaviour, data collection and storage, and the role of artificial intelligence in aged healthcare will also be explained. To discuss HalleyAssist further, Associate Professor Philip Branch from the Swinburne University of Technology and interviewer Tony Maguire.
Philip, you've been doing some really interesting work from an engineering and networks perspective around anomaly detection. And the context for tonight strangely takes us from that kind of esoterical world to talking about the way in which some research you've been doing is starting to have an impact with seniors who are striving to live at home and live at home safely. I don't understand the link between the two. Could you tell me a little bit about the HalleyAssist Swinburne project and maybe just a little bit of the anomaly detection, how you've sort of bridged that chasm, because it sounds fascinating.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Well, look, HalleyAssist is a software and hardware system that allows people to stay in their home who might otherwise not be able to do so. There's plenty of people you can imagine who would might suffer from, say, mild dementia or perhaps a little bit frail, who could live quite happily at home if they had some modest assistance, say had someone to check in on them or had someone to remind them to take the medication and drink water and so on. That's the idea behind HalleyAssist. It's meant to do exactly that. It's meant to be a digital assistant for people who perhaps don't have a close family member nearby or someone who can't check on them every day. It's meant to fill that sort of a role. Now, that's home automation, and home automation is a well-trodden area. There's plenty of systems out there that do that. What is different about HalleyAssist, though, is it also looks for unusual patterns of behaviour that perhaps a carer or someone who is concerned for the person can keep an eye on. So, for instance, if someone stops drinking water, for instance, if they stop going to the kitchen and they're spending all day in bed, that's an anomalous event. That's unusual for that person. Well, perhaps the carer should be told, and perhaps they can do something about it. So that's where the anomaly side has come in. We look for the we train Halley on what is ordinary for this person, what is normal for this person, and then once the system knows what is normal for that person, then we can monitor the behaviour. And if we see anomalous events, then we can do something about them. And what HalleyAssist does about them is it tells a nominated carer that there's something going on and perhaps they should get in contact.
So I'm interested in the underlying research here because you're right, there's lots of home automation systems coming on, so you can clap and lights go on and speak to torrents on the table and things will happen. But I'm interested to understand, I guess, the research basis for this, because the anomaly detection piece is so fundamental in, I guess, understanding the way in which algorithms will play a role in how we start to use AI and those sorts of things in our general life. But the anomaly detection piece, how did you bring it from the network and the telco space to this? That's an amazing leap.
Well, it isn't really. I mean, it's the same fundamental mathematics, the same statistical techniques are used for different types of anomaly detection. The actual techniques, the statistical techniques, the machine learning techniques, the AI that's involved is the same regardless of the actual application that underpins it. So we basically use the same techniques that we've used elsewhere.
I have had a look at some of the hardware in the room that's been set up, and I guess the thing that struck me was just how unobtrusive it was. But I guess, what methods are you using to actually analyse the data? Because it's coming from all these different sensors. So how does that kind of impact on things like, I guess, early notification? I guess there's a layer of context awareness there that would have to be kind of woven through that.
It is context aware. It is able to work out, or it learns what is normal for you. It learns what is normal for the person who is using the system. So it knows the context within which that person is living. The idea is we run it with a training period, so it learns what is normal for this person. And once we know what is normal, we can detect what is abnormal. We can apply some of those techniques that have been used elsewhere to this particular sequence of data that this system generates. So you have lots of sensors scattered around the living area, scattered around the residence, that are activated when the person approaches them or comes into that part of the building. And there is a pattern to those particular sequences. It might be that maybe you get up and you go into the kitchen, you pour yourself a glass of water, that sort of thing. I mean, changes to that, everyone will have their own particular pattern, and that's the context awareness of the system. It learns what is normal for you, and aberrations, changes in that, may indicate something that perhaps someone should know about. I mean, there is a great deal of science and mathematics here, because not every time you do something a little bit different, then that is an anomaly. So you do have to have the maths in there to work out what is an anomalous and what isn't. But generally, the idea of HalleyAssist is to learn what is normal for the person who is using it and identify what is not normal for that person.
So I guess from that, if you're looking for patterns and you're looking for kind of changes in behaviour, I would guess that you could infer certain conditions or certain things happening in someone's life based on some of that data that you're seeing?
Look, we don't pretend to be medical people. We're very careful not to make those sorts of claims. But pretty obviously, if someone, for a simple example, if someone goes to the bathroom, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a day, suddenly they're going 7 or 8 times a day. Well, maybe you could infer something from that. But we don't make any claims that there is some specific illness happening there, but we can identify that something unusual is happening and someone should have a chat with the person.
Yeah, look, from my own experience, when my father was living independently, this kind of data would have been just invaluable to myself and my brother. We would drop in and see Dad each day, but there were subtle changes happening in his behaviours at night that none of us knew about, which down the track, had we known about his changes of behaviour and his eating habits and what he was doing and how he was sleeping or not sleeping at night, we would have, I guess, been on top of some disguised health issues earlier than we were. So, I can see how that would work.
The main purpose of it is to drive the anomaly detection within that system. I mean, it's difficult to generalise this data. I mean, it is context sensitive. It is your data. How general that data is, how useful it's going to be for someone else is a difficult question. It's a question that's open. Perhaps something that we can do some research on. But the strength of the system is that it's unique for you. And that's great for you, but whether that makes it useful for other people is another question.
For me, my question would be, where would Dad's data be going, for instance? What happens to it? How's it analysed? What security around it?
Yeah, security is a really important issue of this. Privacy is really important. None of the data leaves the premise. We have central to the system is what's called the Halley hub, and that's where the data is stored. No raw data gets transmitted anywhere outside the hub. What does get transmitted is summaries of the data that might go to the carer, but the actual data stays there within the home. Any communication that does go out of summarised data is encrypted. So we're very careful, we're very aware of the issues related to privacy and security. Also, I should make it very clear that the sort of data that's collected is just sensor activations. There's no video, no pictures, nothing like that. So we're very concerned to provide privacy for the people who use this system.
From your research, where do you see the role of AI in spaces like healthcare, for instance?
Look, AI is going to change an awful lot of things. I mean, so much of this buzz about big data these days is mostly about trying to understand the data using artificial intelligence technique, or using that to actually drive artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a very encompassing term. It includes a whole lot of different things. And look, medical, aged care and so on is going to be affected, just like so many other parts of society are going to be affected. AI has been used in diagnosis for quite some time, but it's going to be used more widely in other areas of medical science as well. I think that's pretty obvious.
I know Dad had his little alarm hub there, and he had his little dongle around his neck, which he never wore. There are these sorts of technologies out in the marketplace now, and different places are pushing, I guess, those alarm hubs, but they're reactive. So what are the challenges that you see Halley may be solving in this space?
Look, your story about your father is a very common one. I've heard that many times. Older people really do not like wearing things like those alarm buttons. I heard one woman describe it as having to wear a cowbell. She loathed it, and that's such a common story. And even if someone is prepared to wear it, if you've got mild dementia, there's a good chance that they'll forget to do it, or won't know how to use it when they have it. The idea behind Halley is completely unobtrusive. Okay, we have different sensors that monitor where the person is going. They keep track of what's used, what's normal, and so on. But it is completely unobtrusive. We don't require the person to do anything in particular. We keep it nice and private, nice and low key for them. And I think that will solve quite a few problems.
You must have a view as to where you see the improvements in healthcare and aged care coming from with technologies like HalleyAssist. What thought to be given to that? Where do you think there might be some improvements?
Look, I think the where we've targeted it, or where we see it as having obvious application, is with older people living by themselves, with perhaps some mild disability. But there are other applications as well. For instance, you might have, say, someone returning from hospital after some treatment. Perhaps if they're on the verge of a relapse, if you can detect that before experiencing a full relapse, then maybe you can prevent additional hospitalisations. Although we're targeting older people, or we see the system as being for older people, it may well have application for people with physical disabilities, perhaps with mild intellectual disabilities. There's a possibility perhaps of it being used in, say, aged care facilities. So we sort of see it as that filling that kind of a role.
All the person has to do is go about their daily business, turning on taps, opening doors, going to the loo. There's nothing new that they have to think about. You're really just assessing their normal day-to-day activities in a really unobtrusive way. But then the proactive piece kicks in, I guess, with that reporting, and then the ability to intervene or to make assessments as to what may be happening, and then dig into that with the GP or whoever.
That's exactly right. The idea is to remain as low key, as unobtrusive as possible. But when something happens that needs to be investigated, the mechanism is there to do so. The reporting is there to do so. So that's the goal of this, to keep keep out of sight, out of mind as much as possible. Except for some things. I mean, we want to have, say, some sorts of assistance. If the person's having trouble remembering medication, we might provide them with a reminder for that or something. But those sorts of things are parameterizable. The part of it that will kick in when things go wrong is that anomaly detection. So we identify something unusual has happened. Someone should have a chat. Someone should make sure that the person is okay. Or maybe it is some sort of progressive change, some sort of deterioration, that if there's some intervention now, you might get a better outcome later on. So that's the idea behind it. Well, I hope more people will be living independently than might otherwise be the case. I'd like to see the product be successful. I think it has enough novel features that it should be. And also I'd like to contribute to the research in this area. Anomaly detection applied to this particular area, I think that's quite novel, and I think we have something interesting to say in that space.